Hello, welcome to the Right Brain Cafe podcast. I'm James, and with me as always is Regina.
Hello.
We're both artists. We are always trying to make stuff happen. We come up with crazy ideas, and we try to implement them in our real world. So that's what we're here to talk about. What we do, the ups, the downs.
What works.
Yeah.
What doesn't.
We have a lot of experience to bring to this, and things that we've done that have worked and haven't worked, and our advice, just how we deal with it. So every episode we'll dive into those experiences, share what's worked, what hasn't, the real talk that artists like you can relate to. So it doesn't matter where you are, at the studio, at your desk, at the wheel, behind the camera, whatever you get it, this podcast is all about that journey, following your passion, taking control of that creative path, basically doing what you love.
And having fun doing it.
Yes. And, we talk a lot about all the times we haven't had fun, but we're still doing it. So,
yeah, that's true.
It's interesting that despite the setbacks, and somebody was talking about this recently, how, it shouldn't be labeled failure in a way because you're learning from everything that you do. And it's just part of the process. And today we are going to talk about how to start your own challenge, like NaNoWriMo, something like that. But first, before we get into that, if you haven't bought Bookworms issue 6, here is a review we just got.
Ooh, I don't know about this review.
I just literally saw it in my email like 5 seconds ago.
Oh, cool.
So it's from Matthew Green from Virginia. 5 stars. Marvelous. Who did that? That was Billy Crystal. Remember
Billy
that?
Crystal.
Yeah.
Marvelous.
I liked everything about it. The contributions from Clay Chapman and Grady Hendrix are why I bought it. And the neon green Halloween 3 cover.
Aha.
Yeah, I know. But I loved the surprises too. The graphics, the extra stories, poems, and especially the home crafting Ouija board activity.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Lovely zine. I hadn't bought one since the 90s. I'm glad I stumbled on this one.
Well, that is an excellent review.
Right? I'm going to put that up on Instagram.
Feature that because that is like a review that hits on all the things that we try to achieve. So it's always a good feeling
when somebody gets it.
When you get feedback like that and like, oh, wow, someone noticed that what I was doing. And that I'm glad I took the time to do it in a way that can be appreciated.
Absolutely.
Very nice.
Because we're not on Etsy anymore, we used to get a lot more reviews because on Etsy it happened. But Etsy is, first of all, their customer service is the worst. So I'm trying to fix the site, and then I can import all the reviews from Etsy into this one that's connected to Big Cartel.
Yeah, it really doesn't. It doesn't seem to have affected our sales too much.
Not at all. Right.
From Etsy, so that's good.
I'm very happy with it.
There are always other options besides just the big sites, which is kind of what we're talking about today as a segue.
Yeah, actually, that is exactly what we're talking about. Oh, yes. I want to talk about your recent podcast with Mers.
Oh, right. Yep.
Back cover.
Harp is in the Trees. Back cover. Yeah. Yes. Her premiere-ish episode.
Yeah. And you were the guest, and I watched it, and I enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you. I had a lot of fun doing it, and she's very good. She did a great job editing out all my ums and things like that. But she's wonderful. I consider her a friend, and we had a really good discussion about all of this stuff, and it was fun to tell some stories and to talk to her.
Yeah, so
she's a very creative person too. You should look at her. She's starting to get back into YouTube, so it's a good time to subscribe to her channel.
Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes. You can subscribe and also listen to the podcast and watch it, basically, because you were on camera, which is not what we do here. And I need to do. My lighting was kind of crappy. I looked a bit ghoulish, but I don't ever want to turn this podcast into a video.
No, because I don't want to put my makeup on.
Exactly.
This time of the
I don't
day.
even do that. But to me, I like, no one wants to see me at this time, Like, I got like Einstein hair.
Well, I just to give you a visual, I exercise every morning, so I do that, but I have not taken a shower yet, and I don't have makeup on, and I have my glasses on, and I'm wearing a sweaty sweatshirt, so there's your visual.
Right. Yeah,
I like to present a little more of an attractive picture.
But also it's a lot more work if you have to record this and then also have to edit the video. I mean, we do enough already, and that is just one more step.
I listen to podcasts when I'm on my bike. I don't look at the videos for podcasts generally. So
yeah, actually, when I had listened to the one with you and Mers, I actually was cleaning my kitchen, and I just had to, I was listening to it. I actually wasn't watching it.
Okay, good.
Although I will say, I love her editing in that. I love the way she edited in your video from going to the Vampa Museum. She edited in the graveyard by your house. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just talking heads the whole time, which was very nice.
That was nice. And she's very good at video. She did my Carney little promo trailer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that. It was good.
Which I love. And then she did one for Unmasked, and she may have done one other for me, but she's very good with that stuff.
You talked about, which you have out now, we'll put this also in the show notes, Halloween Haunts.
Yep. Tales for Spooky Season.
Yep. And
still going strong.
How soon will Fashion Victims? No, Dress Rehearsal? No, what is it?
Oh, no, Fashion Victims is a book I've already, it's already been out for years. It's called Final Dress.
Final Dress. All right, I'm mixing it all up.
I am working on that, and my goal is to have it out for the holiday season. So that's coming up.
Awesome.
It's not a novella, but it's a shorter novel. I'm in the editing phase, and I'm having fun putting it together, and I can't wait to share it. So
yeah, I love that you combine those passions with fashion and writing and the horror.
Yeah,
like you've done with Unmasked, your passion for your hatred of Madonna,
and you know what? Her brother just died, and I actually wrote my protagonist from his. I read Christopher Saccone's book about Madonna, where he was very critical of her, and it's sad he just passed away, and I related to him as someone who has has a dominant older sister. This comes out in all my work, whether it's Batilda or the weirdness. It's my own trauma that I'm working through. Sorry, my sister doesn't listen to my podcast or anything or read any of my books, so it's fine that she'll never know this. I'm talking about it, but I really related to his story. So and when he died of cancer, it made me sad because he was in her home, and I'm like, oh, he could never escape her.
No.
Maybe they made out at the end, but I just feel like she is a monster, and I don't care.
Hopefully her money helped him.
Yes, maybe her money, but at what price? At what price?
No, I mean, like at the end of his life, like if he was able to have the proper care so he could transition comfortably. True. Maybe I hope that happened.
I don't know, but I've been thinking about writing Unmasked Part 2.
Yeah. Yep. Let's talk about your reasoning for. So this topic we came up with literally this morning. You brought up like starting your own NaNoWriMo. And if you don't know what NaNoWriMo is, it's National Novel Writing Month. And what is it, 50,000 words they want you to accomplish
for the month of November.
In the month of November. And it's a community type thing, so you can actually talk to other people. But if you listen to a couple episodes back, was it the AI episode that brought...
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There was a big to-do about NaNoWriMo and their acceptance of AI, I would say, and they had to backpedal.
Their policy on...
Yeah. They've been backpedaling since. I get emails all the time from them now, like, hey, trying to get me... Because I've done it, but I've never... It was so long ago, but I'm still on their mailing list.
Did you ever win? Did you ever finish a project?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay. I did it for years, but after this, it's not like I'm even that radically against AI, but I just decided after this last controversy, and then they had some other controversies, I'm like, you know what? I don't need NaNoWriMo. I can do this on my own. So I think that's why I wanted to come up with this idea, like encouraging creative people to not always just follow what everyone else is doing. Not that there's anything wrong with NaNoWriMo. I enjoyed doing it. I actually used it in the summertime to help me complete my novel. But kind of talking about like what you've done, with your drawing challenges, you don't need to just follow someone else's lead, especially something like NaNoWriMo, which now maybe it started out pretty indie. It seems very corporate now. and they have a lot of sponsors that support AI. And I think also that was part of the controversy. We don't have sponsors, but so we can be a little more honest about what we're doing and say, you know what, I'm going to start my own. What I'm going to do personally, I intend to finish my editing my book probably by the end of October. And then I'm going to start a new writing project, fresh, something completely new. And I'm going to do NaNoWriMo without doing NaNoWriMo. And I might set some different goals for myself. So that's what I'm going to do. And maybe I'll get some people to join in with me. Maybe I'll do like a YouTube weekly progress report or something. But yeah, why not?
Okay. Why do you think you successfully completed NaNoWriMo in the past? What are the things that you think helped you?
Well, I think I pretty much used it just as a recording and a recording device, like recording my daily word count. And also the ticking clock, I have to admit, does help. That you only have so much to get done before, you only have so much time before you have to finish. And NaNoWriMo had a good program where they would show you your progress and like in a line graph. I actually think you could opt for different types of pictorial graphs. So you could see, hey, am I hitting my mark today? Okay, I'm a little behind. I need to hit more tomorrow to reach my goal. So all of those tools I found useful on the NaNoWriMo site. What I didn't, and this might just be in me and my personality, but I didn't do a lot of interacting and socializing on NaNoWriMo because I was writing. I had my head down and I'm working. So I didn't have too much of the social aspect of it. Although I did, maybe a few years ago, I had a bit of like I joined one group or something, and then you can kind of go in and waste time or during a break, you could go in and look and see what other people are doing. But I think it was mostly the tools that helped keep me on track, which I can create on my own.
I think Scrivener has that built in as well, if you use Scrivener.
I do use Scrivener.
Yeah, they have a word count thing, and then you can set it up. You can set up a whole bunch of goals in Scrivener.
I had no idea. I like that program, but there's so many parts of that program that I don't use.
It's so intimidating when you get into Scrivener. Like anybody who opens it up is going to be like, no, because it's so deep of a program and it's not like, I don't think it's user friendly at first glance.
It took me forever to start. I won that Scrivener program, I think, when I won the Waddy Award, and I never used it because I'm like, this is too complicated. But now I would never go back to using like Word.
Yeah, I love it. But again, I don't use it to its full potential. But you can go on to YouTube and look up like tutorials on how to set goals in it.
Okay.
Because I wanted to talk about, basically, NaNoWriMo is a goal setting thing, right? We're saying, I want to hit this goal by this date. And they put the community aspect in there, which I think is good for some things. I think it's more...
I do too.
I do. I'd rather it be a person, like in-person thing than an online forum.
They do have, I know NaNoWriMo used to have meetups and hotel lobbies in your local community. I never did it, but they would do stuff like that.
But you also don't need like 100,000 people, right? It could be just you and someone else that meets up and you share what you've worked on and you could get feedback. But I wanted to bring up like certain things about how to achieve goals, because what goal setting is basically telling your brain that this is your brain has neuroplasticity, means, and years ago nobody believed this. They thought like your brain couldn't be changed, but now you can through habits, like, and just getting up and writing every day is going to actually physically change your brain and how everything is moving around in there to now be able to complete these tasks because it becomes a habit.
And when you don't do it, just to interject, you'll feel it. You'll be like, oh, you'll miss it. Like that's why I think people have a hard time quitting smoking. It's not so much the addiction part of it. It's that, oh, well, this is when I take my break every day and smoke that cigarette. It's hard to break that. But once you break it or change or put a new habit in place, you don't feel the same. Like if I miss my bike ride in the morning, since I've established that habit, I get, it's like I get depressed. I'm sad. The day doesn't feel right. So you have to make your writing time or your painting time or your music time a part of that everyday thing. So when you, for some reason, you can't do it, you'll be like, you'll be chomping at the bit to get back to doing it.
Yeah. And so there's this thing called SMART, and it's a way of like creating your goals. So the first thing is S, which is being specific. So what is it with your challenge, Regina? What is it you want to accomplish? And is it clearly defined?
Right.
So you're going to do your own NaNoWriMo. I'm assuming, do you have a specific number? Or what is it? Do you want to get a first draft of this thing?
Yes, I have not I haven't set the word count goal yet because it doesn't have to be 50,000 words. I think I can actually write 70,000 words. Or more. I was trying to do, and I was doing it for quite a while. When I wrote Fashion Victims, I did this. Even when I was on vacation, I brought my laptop with me. I wrote 3,500 words every morning, which was a lot. But you know what? I did it. So I've proved to myself I can do it. The most I've ever written in one day or in one session was 5,000 words, which was like, whoa, that's a lot. But I can hit that 3,500. I feel like with NaNoWriMo, knowing I only had to hit 1,200, that kind of held me back a bit because honestly, I could do that really quickly now.
Right.
But I think if I'm challenging myself, I'm like, I can do 3,500 words, not every day because I don't work on Sunday, but I'm going to do it 6 days a week and see how it goes.
Right. So if we're talking about the S, you want to write a first draft. That's the specific goal you want to do. The second thing for SMART is M, which we just talked about, measurable. How will attainment or success of the goal be measured? And just like you said, how many words are you going to do? Or for Pencilween, and which we're going to also continue with No Pen November.
I love that.
It's a very simple draw something based on a prompt each day. That's the goal would be hopefully to do it every day. You don't have to, and that's the other thing. There's I don't want to he doesn't like to call himself this, but Dan Harris is like this meditation guru guy. He used to be an anchor for ABC, and he had a panic attack live on TV.
Oh, wow.
And then he ended up starting like writing a book called 10% Happier about meditation and his experiences and blah, blah, blah. But he likes to say, like, if you're getting into meditation, like people sometimes push themselves too much. Like, I'm going to do 15 minutes every day. And, what you should do, obviously Regina knows that she can accomplish a certain thing. But if you're starting your own little challenge, what is something you feel like you can accomplish?
Exactly. It should be something
attainable,
maybe push yourself a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this
attainable.
This Pencilween is pushing me because I'm pushing myself as far as challenging I'm working a lot more on shading and stuff, but I don't have that much time every day. So everything I'm doing is probably less than an hour. Like I can't put as much time as I'd like to into each drawing. So,
I love Pencilween, and I have missed a few days, and I think the social aspect of your challenge really is great, because when I miss a day or two and I see other people's drawings, I'm like, damn, I missed that one. And not that I can't go back and do it, but like this morning I did the one for the cabin.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need to do it because when I wake up in the morning, my routine, I get up early. Before I start writing or anything, I'm pretty much just drinking coffee and like scrolling through my phone and checking my email and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do Pencilween first thing in the morning and get it out of the way, because it's kind of a nice way to kind of get my brain moving. But I love it. It's great. And I have so much fun drawing
too. Because like,
does he?
He doesn't. He posted on Facebook, but
okay.
He's literally the first person every day that has something, and I'm like, he's either doing it the night before or he wakes up real early. I don't know how he does it, but do
you ever share his drawings on Instagram? Because I know he's an artist. I would love to see his Pencilween drawings.
I can't figure out how to, like, you know what I mean? Like I haven't yet. Like it's like, what's her name? Is it Ange Bain on Instagram? I think.
Yeah.
Is she drawing? I'm trying to think. There's somebody who's doing it, but they have their account set up that I can't share it to the Bookworm stories.
Oh, okay.
So I feel bad because it's like I'm not sharing, but it's not my fault. It's because your settings are set that I can't do that, you know?
Yeah.
So there are people who are doing it, but I can't share them. And then to go from, I've tried to go from Facebook to Instagram, but it doesn't really let me share like as a story or anything. It just lets me, who do you want to send it to type thing.
Oh, well, maybe you could just at the very end do some screenshots or something.
Yeah. My point is, when it's measurable is make it like if you are going to meditate, start with 1 minute. And here's the reason, and this is the same thing people say if you're going to write, say you're going to write 100 words a day. Because the thing is, once you sit down to do your thing, whether that's drawing or meditating or writing, you're going to hit that goal and you're probably going to be like, you know what? I'm going to keep going. Yeah, I'm going to, you could say, you know what? Today I got to the 100 words. I'm done. I can't handle more than that today. But other days you'll probably be sitting there and being like, I'm enjoying myself and I'm going to keep going. But make that goal, daily goal. And again, daily, I mean, it could be Monday through Friday. You don't have to do it every single day if that's something, you know, if your goal is to hit, 50,000, we'll just use that number, but 50,000 words if you're writing and you don't want to work on the weekends, you got to figure out the math of what you think you have to at least do each day. But we're not, I don't think it's does anybody good to do something that's going to really upset you, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, if it's making you miserable, then why are we doing it, you know?
Well, I think you have to then really think about, like, what your goals are. Like, I know a lot of people dislike exercise.
Yeah, I'm raising my hand.
Yeah. And I think it's finding, like, I hated going to the gym. I had a gym membership and it was such a waste of money because I was just not going because it just wasn't my style. But once I found what works for me, which is riding bikes, because I used to jog too, but I'm a little old, my knees kind of hurt when I do that now. So I did it, and once I found my sport, if you want to call it that, I love it, and I think that everyone has that activity that they're going to love. So try to take some time, maybe experiment with some different things, and find some activity you love. And when it comes to writing, you don't have to write a novel. You can write poetry or just keep a diary.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of a diary
your
or a
writing
journal,
time could be a diary.
So I saw somebody post this and I decided I'm going to do it. And I got a journal. I had them laying around, but I rarely write in them the way I want to. But somebody did this video about doing a drawing journal where you're actually drawing kind of what's been happening all day.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's really rough sketches I'm doing in ink, but like, I have therapy today, so I drew like a picture of me on the couch and like that kind of thing, and I'll have a couple words maybe, but it's been a lot of fun and I feel like I'm every day doing it more than writing, oh, today I did this and this,
Yeah.
But back to making a NaNoWriMo like challenge for your art. We talked about being specific, being measurable, and action-oriented is the A in SMART. Is this attainable? I think a lot of people think about something they want to do, but they never really think, is this something you can actually do?
Yeah.
It's not that you can't, but maybe in the time frame you're thinking. Like, I think NaNoWriMo, when they created their challenge, came up with, hey, this seems doable within a month, right?
Yes.
And so if even with the pencil-ween, so I have been enjoying it. That's why I decided let's continue with No Pen November. But the original idea was really out of control, and I kept sharing it with my friend Jake. And I'm like, here's what I have. It's going to be like a point-based system where, if you just do the prompt, you get this. But if you add a worm to it, you get this. And if you make the worm scary, you get this. And it was like going, he's like, yeah, it's not that fun. He's like,
yeah, it's too much work.
But I was like going, and it was like just something. It's like, yeah, that's too much. Like, but yeah,
But it's good to think all those things through.
Oh, yeah.
Like I have so many ideas, and we talked about this as another topic, that I'm never out of ideas, but it's the discipline of sitting down and saying, okay, I'm going to focus on this one idea about what this book is about and not get distracted by all these other things in my head and just take the time and focus. That, I think, is the biggest challenge, especially today when we have so many distractions. It's amazing that people actually get work done because it's just easier to scroll or to listen to a podcast or music or something. But sitting down and saying, okay, I am going to focus. And things like Pencilween can help you focus.
And in addition to that, having Jake and there as a sounding board of, because Pencilween and this next thing in November is meant to be a community fun thing, right? So if you're doing this for yourself, you can make whatever rules you want. But with the drawing challenge, it's a community thing that I created because it's supposed to be something fun for everyone. And if you're, the reason why I think community is great for a creative person putting together something like this is, and actually Anne Lamott she wrote Bird by Bird, and she was on she was on a podcast I was listening to. And if you haven't read Bird by Bird, it's a great book for writers and I think creative people in general.
I never heard of it.
No? So the idea of Bird by Bird is when she was young, her brother had to do this report for school on birds. And he was so late in getting into it. And her father just said, look, we're going to go through this bird by bird. So just just today, it's this bird. And we're only going to focus on that. We're going to work on that. And then tomorrow, the next bird. And they accomplished it. Good. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. But she had brought up something in the podcast that reminded me of how we talk about bookworms and creating bookworms and how doing it together has been a fun experience. Yeah. And she said she didn't talk about bookworms, but what she said was it's because neither one of us can be nuts on the same day. And I loved that. I'm like, yeah, you know what? If I'm having a shitty day, Regina's probably having a good day when I'm having a shitty day and vice versa. Yeah. And I think like that's just how she's talking about, like she was bringing it up because of going to a writer's retreat or something like that. Mm-hmm. And the idea that writing is such a solitary creative act that when you're at a retreat, it's like you might be having a bad day, but then there's somebody having a good day at that retreat who can kind of talk to you and kind of say, yeah, I felt that way and all that stuff. So that's kind of why I think a NaNoWriMo style challenge and the community aspect of it could be beneficial for certain people.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that, you shouldn't do NaNoWriMo. I'm just moving into kind of developing my own program and
well, you know what?
Others would want to join in.
Yeah, you make a great point because I am doing Pencilween, but I could have been doing Inktober, which again, that was one that seemed to be very indie, but now seems kind of corporate-ish. Like, I don't know if it is or not. And I think
I've seen something. I've seen like signs for that.
The biggest name in this kind of thing is Inktober, but I don't know. I don't know why I decided I'm going to do something. To me, it was just silly. Like the name was silly. Just coming up with prompts.
Now, what about your prompts for November? Is that going to have a theme or just different thing? Okay,
no, it's just random words.
Okay.
Yeah, I originally.
I like random words.
So do I. Well, so I originally did it based on autumn and Thanksgiving and stuff like that, and I was even trying to use AI to come up with some words, and it was just awful. Everything like veterans, election. I'm like, no. It just doesn't lend himself when it's so specific to a month or something like that. Like obviously, but even Pencilween, cabin could be a haunted cabin in the woods, or it could be I'm doing Lincoln Logs.
Okay,
because I've been doing toys.
I did the cliche. Yeah, I liked your choices.
So yeah, that just started with like 70s toys. So I've been doing that. And so I was looking up cabin toys 70s and that Lincoln Logs. And I'm like, yeah, everybody's played with Lincoln Logs. And the other reason is I take whatever image I use as a reference, I make it black and white, and then I put a high contrast filter thing on it so I can work on the different shades of gray when I do it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, so, but there's no reason I should have created Pencilween except for, I don't know if it's like something you and I have where it's like we want to, I don't know if it's a control thing or if it's a, because there are other, I have to stop myself a lot of times from creating things.
I think, James, that you and I, we're not joiners.
Yeah.
I think that we have our own ideas about what we want to do, and we're not afraid to do it. And nothing wrong with joining. I've just always been able to do that. And I know you're a very creative person. You just have no trouble starting your own thing.
Yeah.
What I would like people to, I would encourage creative people to remind them that you don't need to join the popular thing, especially when it starts to get too popular. It kind of loses its edge, and just you can try other things. I remember when Patti Smith was probably at one of the last or the last shows at CBGB in New York. Of course, the famous music venue that I've been to many times, and everyone was really sad that it was closing because I don't think they could afford the rent anymore. They were
it kills
taking
me
the
that
building
that's
down.
not a thing anymore.
I know, it's crazy. Think that they would preserve that just because it was such a place.
Well, now it's like a clothing store, and they do have something. Yeah, and there are things in there. It looked like a high-end clothing for men or something.
Yuck.
But apparently you still can go in and see some of the things from CBGBs.
Okay.
They preserve some of it.
Well, I really respect Patti Smith as an artist. And she said, yeah, it sucks, but do something new. Find a new place. She was like, move to Detroit or something, do something. You don't have to stick with what the old path. You can branch out, be a pioneer, do something different. That's always been my MO. And I always kind of resist joining someone else's team. But yeah, I never liked the group projects that I had to do in school.
Yeah. And I think if you're an artist, this could be music. Actually, music. I had her on my show, my podcast I did for music called the Songsmith Podcast. And it's Erin McKeown. And in that interview, she talked about how they have this songwriting group. And they get together and they have a prompt. And it was so cool. And she comes up with these like great, the one song that she released was like from one of these prompts. Okay. And it was such a cool song. And I'm like, that's such a great idea for like songwriters to like meet up once a month. They have a prompt, they work on it, and then they share it with each other. And that's not something like, I don't think there's a website you go and do this, but that's something that a community, a small little community decided to do.
Yes.
And it's great.
I love the idea. And I sort of have had that experience like informally with friends and stuff. And you have to be careful of when you have a group of the casting, I would say, as far as you want positive people with open-minded people where you feel supported, because it's hard to share work that's in the early stages. And we've talked about this before. But I do love constraints. Like I remember a friend of mine did this, I think it was called Bread Loaf. It's a very famous writing conference that she got into. And I think it's in New England. I'm not really sure where. But she said that they would do things like exercise, like write a poem about a pencil. Speaking of Pencilween, something very kind of like a dull object. And already my mind was flying in all kinds of different directions of what I could write about a pencil. So I do think
I love constraints.
Yeah, me too. And I think, the next time I see you in the dungeon, we can talk. No, I'm just kidding.
This would be like half a second to be like, oh.
Well, I prefer whips myself, but no, I'm just kidding. See how my mind works. But I love this idea of you could take anything, even something that seems boring, and write a good story.
Absolutely.
Or draw something. So yeah.
I'll actually put that link for that interview because one of my favorite interviews I've ever done.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
And I have said this multiple times. I would love to see what Steven Spielberg would do given the limitations of a no-budget, like, indie filmmaker. Like, he can't call in favors. He's got a very small budget and has to make a film.
Oh my God. I would so watch that reality show if it was
it doesn't have to be a reality show, but
I know, but like I'm saying, like if there
that would be a great reality show.
And you have Spielberg, Tarantino, Coppola, I don't know, Scorsese, all the great
trying to make it happen the way they had to do it back when they were nobodies. Yeah. And that would be amazing because
you've got $10,000. Now go.
Even if they said, look, I would even say give them $100,000 or something.
Okay, we'll be generous.
I'm just saying because the way they think that would be like the catering bill for one of their, So like
it's going to be Wawa hoagies, honey.
I love I would be on any set with Wawa hoagies.
I know I like Wawa. I like them too.
So. That's what I'm saying. I think that they would probably make their best work if they had those things put on them. And I think this actually comes up with the next thing with our acronym here, SMART, R, realistic. So you're making your challenge for the month or whatever you want to do. Is it something you can actually do? Does it make sense given your current circumstances, which is huge? Like, I think a lot of times you think like people set unrealistic expectations considering what their life is like,
True.
You might have a full-time job and a family and it's like, you got to say, okay, what is a realistic goal I can complete this month?
Yes, because if you're knowing that I want to complete 3,500 words, I need at least 2 hours, probably 3. I'm going to give myself 3 hours, which is a lot of time.
That's a lot of time, right? Yeah, I don't certain days I might have that. But I don't have that kind of time normally. And
but I'm going to start at 5 a.m. So,
well, actually I got up early today and not early, but like 6 for me was early. Mm-hmm. And I, got a lot of the cleaning done that I would normally do. So I have a lot more time during the day. And the T in SMART is timely, which is what we're talking about now. Is this something, is there enough time to complete this goal?
I think time is a very important part of, like I said before, why NaNoWriMo works. But I also think that setting your own deadlines is very important. That is, even if you can have a friend that's going to hold you accountable, like having that deadline saying, I know, that's why, I think that's also part of the training I had in the theater, because there's a deadline approaching. The show's got to go on. You don't have time to think, well, I don't really feel like working on it today. No, you have to. If you know that I have to get this book, one way of doing it, I don't really recommend this because you could get yourself in trouble, but set a pre-order date for the book. So you know that you have to finish it in 90 days or something. I think maybe 90 days is, I would have the draft already written though, the first draft before I did that. Because I'll do that with Final Dress, set the pre-order date and then knowing that you have to have that book finished. I think it's like 48 hours before the pre-order date. So the ticking time bomb is always a great device in any story, and you can apply it to your own life, but without stressing yourself out. So it has to be something that is a goal.
So let me go down.
Don't procrastinate.
What you need for your goal, you're going to create your own challenge. It has to be specific. It has to be measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and timely. That's your SMART acronym.
Okay.
And I also think with time is if you have a newsletter, let the people who are probably expecting it know, because then you're going to really feel like, oh, crap, I just told everybody it's going to be out on this day.
Oh, yeah.
So kind of putting that out there as a commitment to your audience that I am working on this and it's going to be available on this day. And you don't want to be that guy who's like, eh. So speaking of this is sort of going back probably 10 years. But this guy I used to work with, He was an artist, and he was always doodling. He did a Kickstarter, and it was, I will draw you a friend. And for like $10, he would just draw some character. And it took off, and he was like he made over $1,000 or whatever with this thing.
Oh, wow.
But I never got my friend, because I'll support everybody. I'm like, yeah, well, you're doing it. Here's $10. Draw me a friend. I never got my friend. And, I went to this. We were just joking. Me and Jake at work were joking about it, and so we went to the website to see the Kickstarter, and all it is people complaining and complaining and complaining that they never got the thing.
Oh no!
Right,
and so he didn't. He didn't fulfill his obligation.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to go out there and say, "Hey, I'm going to have this book for you guys," especially like Regina, you have people. If you tell them, they're waiting for the next R. St. Clair book. And
they are so waiting for the next
They are. And so you can't
yeah, they are, yeah.
You can't disappoint them by telling them it's going to be here, and then you just never deliver. Now, obviously,
especially
things in
if
life
you're drawing
happen.
If you're drawing someone's friend.
I know. I don't have it was so funny. I don't have my friend. But
well, what did he do? Did he ever respond or
no?
Or is he in hiding?
That's what I said. He is. He moved to New York. And he is in New York somewhere. But what I think happened was he did it sort of as a fun little thing and didn't realize that many people were going to purchase it.
Wow.
Right? And so then he was overwhelmed, and he would always put these updates on Kickstarter. You're like, yeah, your stuff will be coming soon. And then he just stopped doing that.
Wow.
And yeah, I don't know what happens in that case. Do you get refunded if you didn't get your friend, or do you get reported from Kickstarter if you just took the money and didn't deliver?
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, he's on the run.
He's on the run.
Building your own challenge is just going to help you improve at your craft. And that's the one thing I've been really focused on, not just drawing the prompt, but challenging myself to draw something that is hard, especially the one I just did was the Ouija board thing. It's just
that was really
four
good.
hands, but I'm not really happy with it.
Well, hands are hard to draw.
Exactly. But I looked at it and I'm like, I don't want to do this. There are 4 hands. It's very dark, and I'm like, no, I'll challenge it. You know what I mean? I'll push myself, because hands are really hard, and I felt like that was a good challenge. And so if you're doing building your own monthly challenge, you can just do it, or you can look at ways that each time you challenge yourself.
Yeah, and I love doing this pencil wean too, because I love to draw, and I feel like if I didn't become a writer, I would have been an artist, and it's like a latent talent of mine. And I do everything freehand, But my favorite drawing that I did, where I actually looked at it and I thought, you know what, this is pretty good, is my cowboy, because I loved to draw horses when I was a kid, so I learned.
Horse, yeah.
Thanks, and I don't mean to be bragging, but I'm like, I was actually able to get some kind of a 3D effect in that drawing that a lot of my drawings lack, and because I felt confident when I drew that horse head, because I knew how to do it, to not perfectly, but I had worked on it as a kid, and I'm like, I sat back and I looked at that drawing, and I'm like, I'm proud of that drawing. I feel good.
It's not a great feeling, you know. And I think this goes back to an episode we talked about, where if you're a writer, maybe have a side project of drawing, or not hustle, but you know what I mean? Because I know when you're drawing that horse, you were in the zone, I
was totally in the horse zone.
It's so healthy to be in that flow state with art. And sometimes it's harder to do it on the thing that you do every day, like writing. And there are times you get there, but when you're doing something that, I don't want to say doesn't matter, but that there isn't
no pressure.
Yeah. It's just, that's why I love this. That's why I wanted to keep going in November, because I've been just loving getting away from everything, coming in my room. I was listening to Bjork. I love Bjork.
I do too.
But I was listening to her while I was drawing, and I'm like, it was such a wonderful place to be. And I think that, if you can find that kind of experience, it doesn't have to be on your own thing. It could be side project. I'm my friend Jake, he's doing it every day. He does pencil-wean, but his thing is he does the tie-dye shirts that I was talking about before.
Oh, okay.
And so he's starting to draw on the shirts. So like for him, it's like really fun for him to like experiment with different ideas for his shirts. And so, yeah, I mean, I think we've covered the challenge thing, but the idea is you don't need, as Regina said, you don't need some other person to create a challenge. You can create your own challenges.
Right.
And if you want friends to come aboard to help, that's even better.
Yeah, and you could actually, like your friend who's in hiding, you can start something that might really hit and be really big, and you'll have to go into hiding.
Yeah, his name's Kyle, by the way, if anybody's...
Okay, Kyle.
Kyle of New York.
Kyle, are you out there?
Kyle.
We're looking for you.
I want my friend Kyle. So,
all right.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a fun episode. And I think I'm looking forward to doing more of these things. I don't know what I'll do, like if I'll do something for December, but, I don't think I'm going to, this is where I was talking about when it comes to realistic. A lot of times I go overboard. So it's like I did pencil-wean. I wanted to keep going, so I'll do November. But then I'm like, in my head, I'm like, could I already had this idea. Could I do a draw every day of the year challenge? And I'm like, well, why?
Oh, wow.
Like, why? Why am I pushing myself? Like, I always go above and beyond. Like, I actually did a Instagram, I'm sure it's still up there somewhere, where I did a Lego photo every day of the year.
Oh, I remember that.
And it was for the national whatever it was day. So it'd be like National Chocolate Day, and I would have a Lego eating chocolate or something. But it was minifigures every day of the year. I did that for an entire year. I don't know why. Like, it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
One of my favorites I did was I did the scene from Twilight Zone when William Shatner's on the airplane with the gremlin.
Oh.
I'll have to put that up. I'll put it in show notes. But that was one of my favorites. I spent so much time. I had the actual photo from the episode, and I was going and building the Lego as I'm looking at it and putting it in there. I was really happy the way it came out. So
that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a ton of ways to challenge yourself with things. Like that was just a challenge I put on myself to do a Lego thing every day of the year. It doesn't have to be that extreme. The goal is to have fun and to make it manageable that you can do this and grow.
Yeah.
So, all right.
You can always go back to doing, what other people are doing, but it's sometimes it's good creatively to try something new.
And by your own, and your own rules, You don't have to
your own rules.
You don't have to get. The other thing doing it yourself is you're not signing up to an email thing where you're going to get freaking emails every day of the week.
Right, and they're going to sell your information and
there's
so
much
that's what happens with these things.
Yep.
They get big and they start making money, and then money becomes the goal, and we're trying to get away from that a little bit. And one thing I like about your challenge is I get really into seeing what other people are doing with pencil-wean. But there's no judgment. I never fear when I put my drawing up that someone's going to pull this apart and critique it. It's like, no, this is like being in the sandbox. And that's what
and that was important to me to say when I started, at all levels are welcome.
Yes.
And I
like
think
that.
something with Inktober is very intimidating because it got so big that you see people doing stuff that's just like, wow. Do I want to put my
artists.
Yeah. And I don't want to post something. So this was more like, hey, let's have fun, and there's no judgment. Right, exactly.
I love it.
All right, we'll be back in a week, hopefully. We managed to get together today. I was happy.